Open the camera. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please join me in thanking the students from the St. Andrew's Methodist School. While you were entering, those were the individuals playing the pan, and indeed they have set the tone for this morning's event. I would like to welcome you to the launch of the Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative. This morning, the Organization of the Eastern Caribbean States and the Ministries of Education in the region, together with the United States Agency for International Development and the United Nations Children Fund, are pleased to launch this initiative with the intention of developing digital content to create an immersive learning experience for our children within the region. I am Mark Burnett, a science educator at the Sir Ira Simmons Secondary School. I am one of two hosts for this morning's proceedings, and joining me now, all the way from the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, is my co-host, Marla Nanton James. Please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you very much, Mark, and to everyone, good morning, and welcome to the launch of DECI.
My name is Marla Nanton James, and I'm from the Ministry of Education and National Reconciliation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As I host from a distance this morning, I'm a bit excited at the very thought of physically being here in St. Vincent, virtually being there in St. Lucia, and still in homes and offices elsewhere. Technological advancements have made the possibilities almost limitless, and DECI capitalizes on this. Today, we'll hear all about how DECI will help drive the process of producing and integrating culturally and contextually relevant content expected to enhance the delivery of education in the early grades. We'll also be getting a sense of how digital tools and technologies will be used to increase student engagement. And I'm really very happy to be a part of all of this. Mark, back over to you.
By the sound of that, Marla, I think there'll be some exciting times ahead with DECI. At this point, we recognize Honorable Curtis King, Minister for Education of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Chair of the Minister of Council, Education. Honorable Sean Edward, Minister for Education, Sustainable Development, Innovation, Science and Vocational Training, St. Lucia. Honorable Joachim Henry, Minister for Equity, Social Justice and Empowerment, St. Lucia. Other Honorable Ministers of Education and Honorable Ministers for Social Development of the OECS member states. Dr. Pauline Prosper, Parliamentary Secretary, Ministry of Education of St. Lucia. His Excellency Dr. Didicus Jules, Director General of the OECS. Ambassador Linda Tallier-Teller, U.S. Ambassador to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean and the OECS. Permanent Secretaries of the Ministries of Education, OECS member states. Dr. Alois Kamaragi, UNICEF Representative for the Eastern Caribbean area. Mr. Clinton White, USAID Representative for the Eastern Caribbean area. Chief Education Officers, OECS member states. Directors of Education, OECS member states. Heads of departments and senior officials of the Ministries of Education, heads, principals, and the presidents of the OECS National Colleges, Dr. Carleen Radix, Director, Human and Social Division, OECS Commission, Mrs. Cicera Simon, Program Director, Education Development Management Unit, other representatives of the regional and international development partners to the OECS, Peace Corps representatives, education officers, principals, teachers, representatives from the private sector, Lucelec, Flow, Digicel, Chamber of Commerce, Bank of St. Lucia, Republic Bank, EDMU team and staff of the OECS Commission, youth representatives, students, and representatives of the media. Welcome. Today we are about to witness something monumental, something special, the launch of a digital initiative that will transform our education system in this technological era. And to begin, I invite you to stand for the invocation that will be done by the students of the Tucker Clark Primary School in St. Kitts and Nevis. Thereafter, please remain standing for the national anthem of St. Lucia.
Dear Lord, I ask for your blessing on this very important gathering today. We thank you for your mercies, love, and protection. Thank you for keeping us safe during this tough COVID-19 period. Lord, give your richest blessing to the content writers who will give their time to make this project a success. Thank you for the support of the OECS, UNICEF, USAID, and other Caribbean partners. Let every process, plan, and preparation be fruitful. Help us to use our soul, mind, and team spirit to produce the best product. Lord, I ask for every success in the launch of our digital education capacity strengthening initiative. We praise you for answering our prayer in your precious name. Amen.
And indeed, thank you to the students of the Tucker Clark Primary School. And now the national anthem of St. Lucia, which will be done by Ms. Pearl Tench, the founder of the National String Orchestra, and a few of her students. Thank you. You may be seated. Just beautiful. I now hand you over to Marla.
Ladies and gentlemen,
as you've done.
DECI is an initiative that caters for primary school students. And what better way to keep this fresh in our minds than to showcase this cohort at the launch? Please put your hands together and let's welcome at this time from the National String Orchestra of St. Lucia, the students and their teacher.
powerful
about the
about the
image of children with musical instruments playing beautiful harmony, the type of harmony that's required of the 5 OECS member states that will be critical to the implementation of DECI: Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And at this time, we invite you to get warm. You can post where you're from in the chat. That's on Zoom, and we'd love to interact with you. On location this morning is St. Lucia's Minister for Education, Sustainable Development, Innovation, Science, Technology, and Vocational Training. And I invite him at this point to deliver the welcome remarks. Please put your hands together and welcome the Honorable Sean Edward.
Thank you very much, Mistress James. Permit me to adopt the protocol that has already been established, but I want to single out for special recognition this morning the Honorable Curtis King, Minister for Education in the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who also serves, and Minister King serves as Chair of the Council of Ministers of Education of the OECS. Other Honorable Ministers of Education and ministers responsible for social development in the OECS, His Excellency Dr. Didicus Jules, Director General of the OECS Commission, Ambassador Linda Taglia Latella, U.S. Ambassador to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Dr. Camu Raglier, UNICEF representative for the Eastern Caribbean. I hope I pronounced that correctly. If I did not, you will well understand the challenges that I've been having with some of the names this morning. Mr. Clinton White, USAID representative for the Eastern Caribbean area. Dr. Colleen Radix, Director, Human and Social Division, OECS Commission. Other representatives of regional and international development partners to the OECS. Staff of the OECS Commission, and this morning I must, in a very special way, acknowledge and recognize the presence of our students, and let us put our hands together for the students. Media practitioners, ladies and gentlemen, good day all. On behalf of the government and people of St. Lucia and the OECS Commission, it gives me great pleasure as Minister of Education in St. Lucia to welcome all of you to the launch of the OECS Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative, otherwise known as DECI. The Ministry of Education in St. Lucia has the privilege of hosting today's launch in collaboration with the OECS Commission, USAID, and UNICEF under the theme Developing Digital Content to Create Immersive Learning Experiences. President John F. Kennedy of the United States stated very profoundly that our progress as a nation can be no swifter thanks to our progress in education. The human mind is a fundamental resource to us. What this affirms is that investment in education and investment in our children are absolute imperatives. We must do so swiftly, as this is fundamental to the development of our nation and ultimately the development of our region. Our very own Sir Arthur Lewis, economist and Nobel laureate of St. Lucia, articulated similar sentiments. As a nation, our responsibility is to build the capacity of our people, starting from the very early years of schooling. Today, we are here to participate in and to put the spotlight on an important capacity strengthening initiative, which is very critical as we attempt to build and rebuild an education system that is constantly impacted by shocks of all types, the most recent being the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the past 2 years, we have learned quite a bit as small island nations, having to strike the right balance between the lives and livelihoods of our people while navigating the impact of the pandemic. The Ministry of Education responded to that call by providing the technologies as well as the training opportunities to guide teachers in adjusting to the new learning environment. Admittedly, much more is required to enhance the quality of teaching and learning in our school system. Ministries of education across the OECS continue to explore avenues for providing adequate financial and technical resources despite the accompanying economic challenges brought on by the COVID pandemic. We therefore welcome the assistance of international agencies such as USAID and UNICEF, and also assistance from friendly governments. My warm welcome to all of you to the launch of this very important education initiative. The Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative is timely as we transition to a distributed learning environment and seek to develop a digital ecosystem which will ensure the continuity of learning of all our students, irrespective of where they are at in the education system. It would be remiss of me this morning to offer welcome remarks without placing on the record yet again the gratitude of the people, the government, and also on my own personal behalf, my own personal gratitude to the OECS Commission for the outstanding work that you've been doing by coordinating development efforts for the member states of the OECS. The challenges out there for small island states are daunting, and it will be virtually impossible for some of the small island states to navigate the global challenges on their own. And that is why today, the unity, the coming together of the small island states of the OECS is so critical for our own survival and in order for us to reap successes, not just for the individual member states, but for us as a collective. And so I must place on the record my gratitude to the Commission, and in particular the Director General, who has provided steadfast leadership to the Small Island Grouping. Thank you very much, and let us enjoy the rest of the proceedings.
Thank you, Minister Edward, for your remarks and for
welcoming us so warmly. And now to deliver some remarks, we have the Minister of Education and National Reconciliation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who currently serves as the chair of the OECS Council of Ministers of Education. Delivering his remarks remotely, here is the Honorable Curtis King.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me immense pleasure as chairman of the OECS Council of Education Ministers to welcome you to and make brief remarks at this official launch of the OECS Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative, DECI. I wish to put on record my deepest appreciation for the OECS Education Development Management Unit for organizing this launch, and the government of St. Lucia for its support of this event. This event is taking place within the context of the continuing negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on our education sector in the sub-region. Indeed, this initiative forms part of the OECS education sector response and recovery strategy to the COVID-19 pandemic. This strategy commits the OECS member states to take the following actions. 1, harmonize policy responses in education policy. Transition to a distributed learning, which will allow for continuity of learning in any environment, whether face-to-face or online. Strengthen safety nets for students, providing psychosocial support, as well as sanitation supplies for school and personal use. And 4, promote engagement to facilitate the coordination of interventions to increase awareness and partnerships to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative is aligned to the second set of actions identified earlier. The main focus of the initiative is the training of teachers in digital content development to provide students with resources that are engaging and culturally relevant or suitable. The first cohort of students that will be targeted is the grade K to grade 3 students. We have heard too often the criticism that the governments have provided devices to students, but there are no culturally suitable content available to meaningfully engage the students. This initiative seeks to address this deficit. I therefore express my deepest gratitude to the following: USAID and UNICEF for their magnanimous support in funding this initiative. The OECS Commission for always seeking to fulfill its mandate to facilitate education development in the sub-region through the mobilization of much-needed technical and financial support. Our other development partners for the work you are doing in the sub-region. Rest assured that the governments and people of the member states value your contribution and look forward to your continued partnership in the development of education. And the business sector represented here this morning for your support for education. We urge you to continue to expand your investment in the education of our young people. Finally, I place this important event within the framework of collaboration in education development among member states of the OECS. It builds on the progress we have made in harmonizing our education systems and will further enhance our OECS integration process. I therefore, as chairman of the OECS Council of Ministers, give my full endorsement of and support to this very important digital education capacity strengthening initiative. All the best for the rest of the launch, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister King, for deepening our understanding of DECI with that comprehensive background. And as we continue to showcase the diverse talents of our youth across the OECS, we now have a piece called I Love Grenada, done by students of the St. Andrew's Methodist School. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the students of the St. Andrew's Methodist School. And you know, once our schools continue to be that engine room, then we know that we are in good condition, and we know that talent can never really be exhausted in the Caribbean. By the way, folks, you will be required to participate a little later down on the program when we have the call to action. So those in the virtual space, please make sure that you are camera ready. And at this point, I hand you over to Mark.
I'm also anticipating the next item on the agenda. Here today to tell us about the initiative is the Program Director for the OECS Education Development Management Unit, Mrs. Sisra Simon. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Simon.
Good day, everyone. Permit me to adopt the protocols already established. This morning, to begin my presentation, I would like to engage the young persons or the youngest persons in the room with us here today. There are 9 very energetic, excited, and technology-ready individuals with us. So before I get into my presentation, I would please allow me to pose just 1 or 2 little questions to them. Children, good morning again, boys and girls. Good morning. How many of you have a device, a smartphone, a computer, a tablet at home? Just show by raise of hands. Don't be shy, just raise your hand. Thank you. Most of them, they do have access to a device. However, the reality on the ground, we know, indicates that while some have or may have access, there are a number of students without access. And further, while there may be access at home, most of these devices are shared. Children, 1 more question for you. You remember 2020? Do you remember anyone? You don't remember the year 2020? Ah, great. Schools were closed. You were learning from home. You missed your friends. Can one of you, just 1 person, come up here and share with us the most exciting thing from that time? Just briefly, who's not shy and who's ready to share with all of us here? Please come. Be shy. Go right ahead. No, they want to see your beautiful face. Right ahead.
I had many projects and they were so interesting, and I had a lot of fun doing them with my mother and my sister.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you. The reality is, thank you. The reality is our children are ready. They've been ready a long time ago. The OECS Commission and Ministries of Education, we have doubled up our efforts in transitioning to what we refer to a distributed learning system. Many of you may be wondering, are we really ready? Although you may hear it from the mouths of babes, as we did this morning. But please listen closely, as we have some other students who would like to share with us their experiences.
Hi, my name is Lucia, and I am a student of the Belfie Combined School. Using devices has been a roller coaster as it went from difficult to easy in a short time span. At first, it was like a very new thing to me, and I thought it would be harder to learn just because I was at home and not face to face with my teachers and classmates. But it turns out using devices made my life easier and it made me learn a lot of new things.
What even made it more interesting was that my teacher sent us videos and cool games that help us understand the concepts she was teaching.
As you've heard, our children are ready. They're excited. And thus far, we as a region have lots to celebrate. Over the last 2 years, we partnered with several agencies like USAID and UNICEF, the Global Partnership for Education, to launch, for instance, the Global Digital Library. It's a library with at least 6,000 early grade reading materials for our students. Isn't that amazing? In addition to this, we have been able, with the support of teachers, curriculum officers, experts across the OECS, to develop some 3,000 curriculum-aligned modules for teaching and learning. That's approximately 9,000 resources that our children, our teachers, and our parents have been able to utilize to support learning. Time does not permit for me to share a lot more of what our exceptional educators, and at this point, colleagues, before moving into the other parts of my presentation, I would like to acknowledge the support of the teachers across the OECS in content development. So where do we go from here? DECI, this new initiative, it really builds on our previous efforts in content development. One, from the Early Learners Program through our Right to Read initiative, and it also builds on our current content development initiatives. So DECI will really help to strengthen the capacity of all our educators, whether they are teachers, whether they are principals or curriculum officers, to use and develop digital content to better support pedagogy and learning. This initiative is valued at approximately $6,000 US, with support from our development partners, USAID and UNICEF. And it shall benefit 5 of the OECS member states: St. Lucia, Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis. It targets students at the kindergarten to grade 3 level, and it is estimated to be completed in approximately 12 months. So you might be wondering, 12 months? Yes, it is short. But I must indicate here that this initiative is not it's not starting off. We're building on. We're taking advantage of those systems that work that we have begun. And so here is an example, ladies and gentlemen, of how we build sustainability in education. And so with this, at this point, I'd like to applaud the efforts of UNICEF and USAID in coming along and in ensuring that all initiatives in education, that we build sustainability from the onset. Finally, what are some of the major outputs of this project? One, as indicated, we want to build capacity. But what will be used to measure that? We are aiming to train at least 600 teachers and principals to be trained and certified in digital instructional content development. Another major output would be the development of an additional 3,000 curriculum-aligned materials for students to support students' teaching and learning. An important aspect, we believe, at this point is the establishment or the development of a quality assurance mechanism. This is to ensure that the materials that we develop and we put out there for our students meet, one, our curriculum standards for education in the OECS, and it's material that are culturally relevant for students at the kindergarten to grade 3 levels. And a very important aspect also is the development of a robust platform for hosting this repository of content. And again, this platform we've already begun developing and we've already begun utilizing. So at this point, as I seek to close, I shall again reiterate, DECI will build on past and existing efforts. The Right to Read from the Early Learners Program and currently our iLearn initiative. Please take a look, listen to what our content developers thus far have to say. I thank you.
I'm Simon, and I'm from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I am honored to have been given the opportunity to share my experience as an OECS iLearn certified developer and also as a member of the quality assurance team. Before becoming a certified developer, I have always had the interest in developing culturally relevant content for my students. After enrolling in the OECS iLearn Content Developer Program, I realized that it provided me with the perfect opportunity to contribute to the pool of digital instructional resources that can be accessed by students, teachers, and parents across the Caribbean. Our tutors were quite knowledgeable, supportive, and very patient, and worked assiduously to ensure that we understood the content. We participated in 10 hours of training, after which we were required to complete 5 e-learning mini-courses to be used by students in schools across the OECS. Upon completion of units and having them approved, I was later given the opportunity to become a part of the OECS iLearn Quality Assurance team. Currently, I'm responsible for reviewing units and making suggestions to my fellow counterparts across the OECS member states about how they can enhance the quality of the units they create. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be on this team because it allows me to use my expertise to assist others in creating e-learning mini-courses, while also making new acquaintances with other participants across the region. The program is beneficial as it has equipped me with the knowledge and skills I need to produce digital content that is fun and engaging in the anytime, anywhere environment. Students today are known as digital natives. Therefore, using technology in education can help to enhance learning through creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and digital citizenship. This initiative is indeed a worthwhile one, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
Mrs. Simon, for enlightening us on the importance of such an initiative and for providing us with pertinent information that will encourage all stakeholders to commit fully to this venture. I can say to you from firsthand as an educator, knowledge is available out there, but in most cases it is not culturally relevant. All right, so that is why I support this venture. At this point, we will have brief remarks by the Ambassador to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean, and the OECS, Ambassador Linda Talielata.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the United States government, I am delighted to announce the United States Agency for International Development's award of US $680,000 to UNICEF in partnership with the OECS to support the Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative, or DECI. This grant will improve digital education in Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, and St. Kitts and Nevis. Specifically, this initiative will link educators with the curriculum specialists to increase access to high quality and affordable digital teaching and learning materials. The initiative will also work directly with teachers to use information and communication technologies, or ICT, platforms and tools in classrooms and remote learning environments. Given the lessons of the pandemic, this intervention will also equip educators with the resources required to pivot to online learning if needed. The United States' investment is expected to benefit more than 5,000 children in the targeted OECS countries. Moreover, this initiative will complement USAID's St. Lucia Connect Ed program, which is focused on equipping youth with foundational skills required by modern economies and a flexible workforce. It also builds on USAID's Early Learner program by strengthening the capacity of targeted countries to deliver high-quality digital instructional content so that children can continue to demonstrate progress towards the mastery of the foundational skills. DECI also complements the work being done by other key partners in St. Lucia. While we are proud of this collaborative effort, we need to look to the future and support the OECS's capacity to create and increase access to quality education resources, addressing learning losses, and improving distance learning services. As with all of our developmental assistance, the ultimate measure of success occurs when aid is no longer needed. This is why the OECS Commission's involvement from conceptualization through the implementation is so critical. Consequently, USAID is proud to be working in partnership with the OECS Commission through this initiative. In closing, I want to extend a special thank you to UNICEF and the OECS Commission for organizing this event. The United States is proud to be a partner and supporter of these efforts. The Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative addresses our shared goal of advancing learning outcomes and properly preparing students to enter the modern workforce. It also exemplifies what can be achieved by partners working together, combining resources and ideas to address common goals. This is an outstanding initiative that will have a long-lasting impact. This could not have happened without our collaboration and support with the OECS, UNICEF, and the partners represented here in the room. Thank you all.
Thank you for your remarks, Ambassador. And we'll now hear from the UNICEF representative for the Eastern Caribbean area, Dr. Alois Kamaragi.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony. I believe the protocol has been very well established by my predecessors. Good day, everyone. Good day, everyone. Good day. All right, thank you. I take great pleasure in joining you today for this official launch of this OECS Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative. Actually, it's really about strengthening the capacity because CISRA presented that we are building on what was already there. It's an initiative that is both innovative and timely, with its emphasis on forging a far-sighted education system that emphasizes new technologies to aid our children in the aftermath of the devastating COVID-19 pandemic. We talk a lot about reimagining the future of education at UNICEF. And this intervention does just that. With the partnership between OECS, USAID, and UNICEF, we are looking to envision the future and new educational horizons with renewed confidence, optimism, and energy. And for that, we need to create pathways and structures so that if the worst should ever happen again, if traditional ways of doing things break down, our educational systems can cope. Actually, not just cope, but thrive. There is a lot to overcome. Since March 2020, school systems across the sub-region, actually beyond the sub-region, all over, across regions of this world, the school systems have been severely disrupted. Although many students have returned to schools, others are still not back full-time and have to contend with partially online schooling and or a reduced face-to-face timetable with rotational education. It is hard to see how some children are going to overcome the deficit, which often sees the most vulnerable children, those who did not have good internet access or tablets, those whose parents had to leave them all the day to go to work. Those children are the most impacted. What they have lost is immeasurable. That's why what is happening with this DECI initiative matters so much. One of its key pillars is transitioning to a distributed multimedia educational model, which will allow for continuity of learning in any environment, whether face-to-face or online. The four elements of this system, teacher training, connectivity, electronic devices, and content development, are critical for success, especially in the context of building the capacity of teachers and principals to create engaging and accessible digital content. I'm also really heartened that the voices of students have been included in the development process of this initiative. It's great too that the program is not only committed to listening to students, but making sure that wherever it is employed, it is culturally relevant, skills-focused, user-friendly, and caters to our children with special needs. Our partnership with OECS has been rich and fruitful, whether in wide-ranging cooperation agreements, education, youth programming, social protection, child protection, monitoring and evaluation, or juvenile justice. We are stronger together. I take this opportunity really to commend the critical role of the Director General, Dr. Gilles, for really strengthening partnership, not only with UNICEF, but others. over the last months, we have been between UN agencies, Barbados, OECS, having a conversation with OECS to see the extent to which the partnership between OECS could be extended to many UN agencies, resident and non-resident. And we are talking about close to 20 UN agencies out there. Those are assets OECS could tap into. Because at the end of the day, the UN agencies, funds, program are instruments of countries. They are there to serve the Caribbean people. This initiative is a hugely resonant and creative response, working towards an education system that is fit for purpose and works for everyone, regardless of ability. We need to urgently deal with a situation in which all of our children are served sufficiently well by our schools. We are often told that necessity is the mother of invention. Let's be inventive. I cannot afford to close my remarks without recognizing and commending the USAID Regional Director, Mr. Clinton White, sitting there in person, attending this lunch, commending him for his outstanding leadership in taking the partnership between USAID and the United Nations agencies, funds, and program to a higher level in several programmatic areas to better serve the Caribbean people. I've been working as UNICEF representative for the Eastern Caribbean almost for 5 years, so I can see the progress over the 5 years from year one when I arrived in the Caribbean, and now I can tell you that over the last 2 years there has been an acceleration in partnership between USAID and the UN agencies, and that was possible because of Mr. White's leadership. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Throughout this morning's proceedings, we have been hearing a lot about collaboration and its importance to the success of this program, DECI. And indeed, it is a true ingredient needed. Without the support of key stakeholders, a program like this would have simply remained a thought, an aspiration. But thanks to the collaboration between the member states, we are here today. We now call on the Director General of the OECS to further speak on digital education and this new capacity strengthening initiative. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Didicus Jules.
Thank you very much, Chair. I know Alois made it difficult because he recognized the protocol established, but I would like to recognize the Chairman of our Council of Ministers of Education, the Honorable Curtis King, Minister Sean Edwards of St. Lucia, other Ministers of Education and Social Development in the OECS, Ambassador Taglia Latera, Alois, Permanent Secretaries Clinton White, Chief Education Officers, and friends all present. I would like to pick up from where Alois left off and really express profound appreciation to both Alois in his capacity as representative of UNICEF over the last 5 years, as you've heard, and Clinton of USAID for the quality of collaboration and partnership that they have established. And I don't say this lightly, because we have conducted a quiet but increasingly successful battle in trying to redefine the nature of partnership with the OECS. Too often in the past, agencies would come saying that we have money to do X, Y, and Z, and therefore we can fund you to do this. This is following the donor's agenda. What we have shaped, and this is an exemplary partnership, is a co-creational approach where USAID has its priorities, UNICEF has its priorities, but we too have our priorities. And where these priorities converge provides us with that space of active collaboration and partnership to make a real difference in the lives of our people and our students. Our education systems in the Caribbean have long been in dire need of reinvention. The process of decolonization of education fell far short of its historical necessity in the period immediately following independence. Because what happened then was essentially the indigenization of inherited colonial constructs. We swapped foreign content for local content. Instead of talking about apples and daffodils, we spoke about mangoes and whatever other flowers exist in the region. But we never asked fundamental questions about the why and its how of education in shaping a truly Caribbean civilization. And then came COVID-19 pandemic, which effectively imposed a physical quarantine in our daily lives. Livelihoods and learning were the greatest casualties of that great pause. And we scrambled to put in place, within months, the solutions that we should have put in place and should have been developing over the past 20 years. Because it's not now we're talking about digital learning and online learning and all of that. With our schools locked down, learning had to pivot to the home, and valiant efforts were made by teachers, parents, ministries to maintain some momentum of instruction in the hope of preventing any erosion of learning. Now, while the lessons of that experience are still being digested, circumstance has forced us to conclude that a reinvention of our education systems is now an unavoidable imperative. And reinvention is not tinkering around the edges. It cannot be fixing parts of the system without considering the purpose and the function of the system as a whole. So we've seen in the past, even what frankly I consider to be a sad waste of resources, where agencies, development partners have funded curriculum redesign. So we spend a couple $1 million redesigning a new curriculum. We don't train the teachers in the use of the new curriculum. We don't even involve some of the teachers. Sometimes it's done in the past by experts. We don't look at the material requirements for the implementation of that curriculum, what kinds of resources are in the schools to make it happen. Importantly, we never look at the assessment. If we design a new curriculum, are we testing to that new curriculum? And I can tell you as a former registrar of CXC that, there's a very famous quotation from a psychometrician that says that students are not so much defined by tests as constructed by them. And if you as parents or as educators think about it, think of how exam focused our education system is. It's not about competencies, it's not about learning in its true sense. It's all about passing the test, getting the certificate. And as long as we continue on that path, we are doomed to fail. So as a consequence of the pandemic and climate change impacts, vulnerability and uncertainty have assumed first order of primacy. And if education is to prepare us for coping today and preparing for tomorrow, it must confront that challenge. Now, what are the pointers from this for our contemporary path? One, the fundamental role of education must be questioned. And this is not new. Educators as far back as Socrates and Dewey have called for this. But it can no longer be simply the assimilation of knowledge, but the shaping of new mentalities, developing competencies, and unleashing the creative potential of all of our people. Secondly, education transformation is not a linear pathway, but a multidimensional challenge in which every change in each component of the system must be aligned to and reinforcive of other changes. Thirdly, the pivot of learning from a physical school to a virtual interactive space is not going to change whenever the pandemic ends, but will in fact represent a permanent shift in the modality of education. And some educators have got it. I look with great pride at the work being done by Dr. Nurse at Sir Arthur Lewis Community College in making that rapid pivot so that education is now an online thing in its truest sense of its greatest potential. The shift also requires, fourthly, a pedagogical shift. Learning online will need a very different approach to teaching online, because what happened after COVID, school was closed, so we had to learn at home. Teachers went online and tried to teach online in the same way they taught face-to-face in school. And parents, unfortunately, also had the challenge of trying to teach like teachers at home. Now, this calls for a whole new reinvention of pedagogy. And that pedagogy for us in the OECS involves not just teaching teachers to teach online, but also teaching parents and enabling and empowering parents to do the learning at home that can help their kids develop the competencies that are required. So it's not that parents pretending to be teachers. The material, as you will see as we unfold these new initiatives, assumes that every parent's educational base is that of an illiterate. So for a parent who might be totally illiterate, that material being largely audiovisual, videos and so on, will take them through a process of what they can do at home in the regular day-to-day activities of the home to help their kids develop key competencies. More on that later, because I'm sure Sister will be inviting you to the launch of these things as we roll them out. Lastly, at the core of this pedagogical shift is the relocation of the learner as the driver of his or her own learning processes. In other words, using assistive technologies that involves augmented, virtual, immersive realities, and I see the team has some of the immersive reality tools there, like the goggles and so on. I encourage you before you leave here to take a look at it for yourself. Because all of this, mediated by artificial intelligence, gives our students, your kids, the potential to learn, not necessarily with a teacher, and perhaps to learn even more, because there's a natural curiosity that kids have, that if given the opportunity to explore. And it's a simple test of that. I notice many of the kids have devices. Give a kid a computer game that you don't even begin to understand. And no explanation, just give it to them and let them loose for a week and see how they would master it. Now, if we deconstruct that, the processes of logic, of thinking, of systematic thinking, to decode that game, to master it, involves more mathematics than any of us in this room can calculate. But the kids get it, and they get it intuitively. So
One moment.
Sorry, that's Siri. Talking about it. Intrusive
Still on it.
That is the shift that requires us to focus on transitioning to a distributed learning system. One that would facilitate regional integration by exploring avenues to reinvent our economies, and more importantly, to advance equity and access for all learners in the OECS. Given both the scale and the urgency of this challenge, it is neither possible nor feasible for the member states of the OECS to successfully address this individually. As with many other challenges, it is best faced together, combining the talent, as you heard, of the breadth of talent of educators in the OECS and in its diaspora, and incorporating experienced international partners, which is what USAID and UNICEF have brought to this table. The OECS Commission was tasked with developing high-quality digital content, investigating avenues for teachers to be trained and certified in digital pedagogy, assessing and investigating opportunities to improve internet connectivity levels, and procuring devices for primary students. Now, as I say that, one of the big gaps in this is the question of internet connectivity. And I'm again sounding a call and sending a clear warning to the providers that they are wasting time in the provision of proper internet access at affordable prices for all homes. It's no longer about internet access to schools. Every home needs internet access as a public good, not as a profiteering thing. There is a rapidly growing catalog of digital content becoming internationally available, and much of it is available through subscriptions that are costly to small states like ours. And I want to, as much as we have had the cooperation of ministries, I also want to challenge them, our ministries in the OECS, to put their money and their faith in our own capacity to develop our own material. If you look at the back of the room there, you see on display a number of books. All of these books have been written by our children across the OECS, coming out of a reading project. This was a project funded by USAID to improve reading, but having successfully improved their reading, and again it shows the creativity of the team in the ministries, in the curriculum departments, and in EDMU, they decided, well, since they became such good readers in such short time, why not challenge them to become writers themselves? And all of the books on that table have been written by children in the OECS. We want to see another 6,000 of these written, that your children's names are on the books as authors, they have the copyright to these books, and that becomes part of the digital content. So you see the point I'm making about learning in this period is not about what you're being taught. Learning is about engagement. It's about developing competencies. If our kids are learning to read and to write, if they're learning to read, then they need to learn to write. And write not to pass an exam or to give an essay, but write to be authors, even at whatever reading level they are. We have spent millions of dollars throughout the Caribbean in buying subscriptions to things like that digital platform that you see displayed at the back of the room. And all of this costs recurring millions of dollars in subscription costs when we have the capacity to do this for ourselves with indigenous content, using our teachers, using our own students to prepare that material. So developing appropriate, relevant, and free content to enable learning in the digital space is the urgent task facing us now. Well, you heard all about the Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative from CISRA, so I don't need to go into that, except to remind you of the numbers of persons who are being reached in this process, the amount of content that is being developed. And in closing, I want to again express our sincere gratitude of the Commission to our core partners, USAID and UNICEF, for their continuing support, and to thank other regional and international development partners and members of the OECS Education Partners Forum who have consistently walked this road of education transformation with us. Today, friends and colleagues, we invite non-governmental agencies, private sector partners, ministries of education, parents and students to join the OECS Commission and its partners in the call to action to support the development of digital learning content and the capacity building of our educators as we seek to create a more robust and resilient, learner-centered education environment for learners. We are confident that we can do this and we can boost learning to unprecedented heights while leaving no learner behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jules. That was quite thought-provoking and, as some would say, food for thought. As stakeholders, we have seen the immense benefits of integrating digital tools and technology into the teaching and learning process. So it's likely that this initiative will definitely be embraced throughout the implementing member states. Marla?
Yes, Mark. I think that we are
moving nicely along this morning. And just before we move on, I want to acknowledge all those in the virtual space. We've had comments on the Zoom platform from UNESCO, Kingston, Jamaica, Montserrat, Grenada, Washington, D.C., Anguilla, Dominica, the British Virgin Islands, Antigua and Barbuda. I see educators from St. Vincent and the Grenadines there, and on site, we know that St. Lucia is solidly represented. We're now at the point where we have a cultural presentation from Dominica.
Culture 101. The anthem. Kitty are rich. The culture rich. Kitty are with the culture rich. One thing about our what culture is sweet. À présent, nous allons représenter la Jinping. Come well just for the cultural gala, yes. Time to show our cultural heritage as we face one another era of culture, yes. We could demonstrate our your things. Dress up in our play, dress up in our cassette, telling Kotokoitori, people say Okosha we. When we say Tintin Basse, that means we give full respect to our cultural heritage, regardless of color, creed, or age. Look at Batabula to Boma. Look at Wule Tabula to Boma. Bakite music la champagne. Look at Batabula to Boma. Lang pam pam patang tang tang tang. Rang pam pam patang la tang tang. Yep. Like what we in November is all of them things people looking for. London, States, Canada, people from all over will be here for the cultural gala. Well, I'm with the camera, from the place taking picture, memories of crystal water, to show to their friends and the neighbors. There's no other time like this, so this one you cannot miss. Put yourself in the action, come give full participation. Look at Batabula to Boma. Look at Wule Tabula to Boma. Bakite music la chapelu. Look at Batabula to Leju. Lang pang pang patang tang tang tang. Rang pang pang palaka laka tang tang. Look at the people dancing, lady. Ay, ay, ay. Look at Batabula to Boma. Look at Wule Tabula to Boma. Bakite music la champagne. Look at Batabula to Boma. Lam pang pang patang pang pang pang. Rang pang pang patang la katang tang. Rang pang pang patang tang tang tang. ma garçon. On y on say.
Well, clearly Dominica not only has a river for every day of the year, Dominica also has rich culture. Makes me want to visit. Maybe I'll consider for Creole Fest in October. Thank you so much for that cultural presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, we pause to pledge our support to the Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative, DECI, by simply raising our hands, whether physically or virtually. So if you're at Harbor Club, St. Lucia, please go ahead and raise your hand now if you support the initiative. And you will keep them raised just for a few seconds to allow us to capture this moment. Just for a few seconds. Looking good. You're looking good. You're looking very good, actually. All right. And we're panning the room right now. DECI is solidly supported there. No questions about that at all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we now move to our audience online. Please, for a few seconds, turn your cameras on to show your raised hands, or simply use the raise icon, although we prefer you to turn your cameras on so that we can also capture this moment. So online, on the Zoom platform, this is your turn. For DECI to work, we need all teachers and principals and ministries of education and parents and partners, everyone involved. So raise your hand at this time if you intend to get on board. And I'm told that the platform looks good as well. Raise your hand now if you intend to spread the word about DECI. Raise your hand if you value partnerships and things like building stronger synergies. And now is the time to raise your hand in support of DECI. Yes, and I'm seeing the likes and the reaction on Zoom on my screen. This is awesome. This is awesome. Yes, and from the show of hands, it appears that the future of DECI is secure. Thanks to all of you for participating, and more so for committing to throw your support behind DECI. Mark, I'm turning back over to you now.
I am a child. I love life. I am unique. I am special. I raise my hand to learn. Do you see me? Do you see my hand? Show me your hand. Raise your hand so that I can learn. I raise my hand to share my ideas. You raise your hand to shape them. I raise my hands with questions, you raise your hands with answers. I raise my hand for help, you raise your hand to help. I raise my hand for funding, you raise your hand in support. Raise your hand for education.
This presentation is brought to you by the OECS Commission in support of the Global Partnership for Education Raise Your Hand initiative.
Called I Like School from a 6-year-old gift right from St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
close to. I love school, you should too. I love my teachers, they are cool. School rules, merci beaucoup. I like school, it's the best. 1, 2, 3, you know the rest. ABCs, no one can test. Mary working out these my problems, this is no F. I like school, it's the best. 1, 2, 3, you know the rest. ABCs, no one can test. Mary working out these my problems, this is no F.
Resounding round of applause for Ami Wright from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now let me share something with you. What started out as a small classroom project is now a recorded music video. I like school. And we all know how important it is for our students to be so much engaged in education. This is quite much a lot of fun. And that is why the initiative DECI is so important and should be embraced by all. Ladies and gentlemen, we are coming down to the end of our program, but just before we wrap things up, there is an announcement which will be done by Lisa Singh-Terrence, Technical Specialist with the OECS Education Development Management Unit. Sure.
Thank you, Mark and Marla, for giving me just a minute to make this very important announcement on behalf of the Planning Committee at the OECS Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, especially reps from the Ministries of Education, I want you to know that the OECS will be celebrating 41 years on Saturday, June 18th, and there is a special theme for that celebration. It is 41 years of integration, overcoming challenges to build resilience and sustainability. Now, last year, there was a very successful event called Colors Day, and it really heightened an awareness of the work that we do in the region. And it is something that we want our Ministries of Education to continue this year. So what we would like is to encourage your schools to wear the OECS colors. And if you're in doubt, these are the colors right here. The navy blue, the green, what's the other one? White and yellow. Just like we do for Valentine's Day and all of the special days, create something really moving in your schools so that our students can know what the OECS is all about. We will be sharing with you an Instagram frame for them to do those photos, and everything will be posted on our Facebook pages. If you would like to reach out to us to help you with some sessions, we would be very happy to organize such. But we want our children in the region to have an awareness of what OECS is all about, how it benefits them and their families. So on Friday the 17th, it will be OECS Colors Day. We'll be sending correspondence to you on that for dissemination. Thank you very much, MCs.
Thank you, Ms. Terrence. And now we will invite Bernice Joy Lewis, Program Assistant, and Jermaine Anthony, Technical Specialist, also from OECS, Education Development Management Unit, to deliver the vote of thanks. Please welcome her.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. I would like to adopt the protocol already established. Why were we here today? Maybe some of us missed it online. Maybe we logged in late. Maybe we had some technical difficulties and we didn't get that message. Allow me to draw a picture for those of us who are more visually inclined. Imagine a group of students who are not excited to go to class, whether online or in person, and who are not eager to participate in activities and would much rather use their devices than listen to a teacher talk. And let's juxtapose that with a class where students are eager and engaging in exciting games and educational activities in a space that is built for learning organically. This is the reason we are here today, and why I would like to express my immense gratitude to everyone, both in the virtual world and face-to-face, who has helped in planning this event. As a former teacher in the classroom for over 11 years, I know that there is a delicate balance that needs to be struck in order to achieve curriculum objectives, manage students' emotions and levels of engagement in order for them to perform at optimum levels. Of course, the pandemic increased this challenge tenfold. However, what we have realized, as we've seen from our student interviews today, is that even online learning can be fun. In fact, it's more fun and engaging than a boring classroom. As we embark on this journey of challenging the educational landscape for boys and girls across the region, we are quite eager to see the products which will emanate from DECI. To begin, I would like to thank the Almighty for allowing us to be here today. Without His mercies, all our efforts would have little impact. I would like to thank the students of Tucker Clark Primary School for opening the morning's proceedings by invoking our Supreme Being. Indeed, their innocence and their bright smiling faces reminded us that our children are indeed miracles. To the National String Orchestra, we thank you for blessing us with the joy of music. To Ms. Pultench and Mrs. Silverina Howell, we thank you for inspiring us with your gifts this morning. Ms. Tench, your dedication to our children's social development was quite obvious. Our student groups and their teachers from Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, thank you for taking the time to share snippets of your island's culture and allowing us to witness firsthand your musical dexterity. Our student voices, to our students who shared their views on learning with technology during the pandemic, you reminded everyone in this room today that even though you will one day be much more proficient than us, the onus is on us to prepare you for a world that will be vastly different. However, we look forward to seeing you in the metaverse and trying out our much younger avatars. Heartfelt thanks to Honorable Sean Edward and Honorable Curtis King for their continued commitment to empowering our students with technologies and our teachers with the training to continue during the pandemic and beyond. Without the ministry's support and commitment, we truly would not be able to build the capacity of our people. Our deepest gratitude is extended to the Director General. On behalf of the member states, we express our thanks for your continued direction and steadfast vision in driving education reformation in the region. To our partners, USAID and UNICEF, we thank you and we remember the figure and we will hold you to it. And the program manager, Sister Simon of the EDMU, thank you for explaining all about DECI. It is now crystal clear in our minds that DECI is foundational to changing the trajectory of education and ensuring that no matter what happens, our children will continue learning and growing. Our colleagues from the Development, Cooperation and Resource Mobilization, notably Lisa Taylor-Stone, we are extremely grateful to you for providing support to this launch, and to the rest of the team at the EDMU who continue to be a very proactive and dedicated staff at the Commission. Thank you. To our CEOs, permanent secretaries, ministries of education personnel, teachers, principals who took the time to prepare our students, we thank you. To our development partners and private stakeholders who raised their hand in support of this initiative, we thank you, and again, we will hold you to it. And to our content developers and the team at Velsoft who have already begun the process of content developing for the OECS, thank you for blazing that trail. To our virtual guests online, a sincere thanks for taking the time to be part of this crucial moment in the history of education. Lastly, we would like to thank our Masters of Ceremony for taking us through the program with their vibrance and effortless skill. Many of us would have noticed how effectively they navigated both the virtual world and interacted with the audience here in the ballroom. If there were anyone here above 90, I'm sure they would be in awe. We kindly await DECI for not K-3, but for the wider population. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bernice. And as we wrap up, Marla, is there anything you would like to leave us with?
Well, Professor Mark, I liked the way that this blended program flowed this morning. You've been a great host, and I enjoyed partnering with you, I must say. But more importantly, the Digital Education Capacity Strengthening Initiative, DECI, has now moved from page to stage, and I'm more than happy to have been a part of its publicization. Ladies and gentlemen, signing off now from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and raising my hand, by the way, I am Marlon Anton James. Good morning, and it's been a pleasure.
Marla, it has been a pleasure working alongside with you. And you know, Marla and I have been fortunate to have such a wonderful audience. So we want to thank all of you who attended and participated both virtually with us this morning as well as physically. Now, for those of us here, we invite you at the back to some light refreshments after the program. And to the back as well, as Mr. Jules indicated, there is an area to the left where you can, just as you're leaving, experience some virtual reality, as well as the books. Dr. Jules also indicated these books were actually written by our students through the Early Learners Program from the Right to Read initiative. And the hope is that through the DECI program, these books can become digitized. All right, so as I close, I say hats off to my fellow educators in the region, and I urge us all to embrace DECI. Now, my name is Mark Burnett, and I join Marla in saying it was a pleasure in being your host for this morning's proceedings. Thank you.